Sekiro, a game most famous for its refinement of the Lego Indiana Jones whip mechanic. It takes place in a place called Ashina, which is Japanese for feet, huh? Enter Miyazaki, the sculptor of some of the best games this side of the millennium, and likely of the myriad of super important plot-moving aspects of character models, outliers very much withstanding. Truly behavior befit of such a visionary. I stupidly rigged an election that saw the creation of this video, and funnily enough, Sekiro has more unique feat than any other FromSoft entry, and the public wanted a ranking of degeneracy. What you people want, however, is something I will not give. We will instead be ranking by the following criteria. Structure, as in toe spacing, Fibonacci's arch, musculoskeletal arrangement, and length to width ratio. Health, meaning skin condition, hair quality, blood flow, cleanliness, and dexterity. Detractions will be growths, injuries, and any specific disease or condition. In other words, nastiness. Fuck you all. I am ranking this game's feat by how effective they are at being feet. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know just how much I loathe the bastardization of the hand. Like usual, we will be giving scores out of 5 stars this time, and progressing chronologically, area by area, in an otherwise normal playthrough. Let us commence by first going through some rules. Like I said in the intro, these ratings will be going purely by how effective a foot is at being one, and I will not be holding back on deleting comments that exceed my patience. That being said, the foot has to be exposed to portray an accurate understanding. Because of that, Sekiro gets a 0, because not only does he appear to be wearing socks and sandals, but we can check to see but a hollow shell containing no appendages. The same goes for these nameless militants, so they too get 0s all round. The first encounter leaves a lot to be desired, with even the area boss having nothing to declare, though through careful navigation of the dilapidated bridge we come across our first pair of hideous leg platforms, belonging to what the game calls an assassin, but what is commonly known as the freaky goblin fuckbastard. This is a good opportunity to go through every criteria in a once-over of examples. We won't be doing this for every single case study, instead focusing on the standout aspects in an effort to stave off tedium. Moreover, I'll be including later variants if they share identical corporeal models. Weirdly, this character model shows the toe post flossing some cheese, while clearly showing some syndactylization, as in fusing of the toes. Luckily, even while planted firmly in this getup, a subtle Fibonacci remains, explained by the well-developed musculature of the midfoot and the hallux flexor. Sadly, the quality of the digital extensors and lower leg muscles are covered by bandages, and the sole isn't visible. Even so, it's visibly too short and tall in comparison to its insane width. It's hard to get a good look at his nails, but they do look to be within standard operating quality. But Goblin Fuck's skin condition is quite frankly horrible. It's a living, breathing blood thinner bruise that looks like it has not long left. On that, there is no indication of hair anywhere on its body, let alone the feet, giving 2 strikes against adequate blood flow to the foot's soft tissues. Makes it hard to tell if this is just dirt or the early stages of dermal necrosis. Its one saving grace is its remarkable acrobatics and dorsiflexion, likely a necessity to keep the tree force ones from creasing. Lastly, if I were to attribute abnormalities to a specific condition, I don't think it exists. Skeletal dysplasia of the long bones tends to affect all long bones, not just the tibia, fibula, and femur, and it doesn't explain the unexplained dermatitis. I think this is just a goblin. Taking all strengths and weaknesses into account, our first entry gets a middle of the road 3 out of 5 stars. The sculptor comes in swinging with his impeccable maintenance of his evolutionary burdens. Most obvious is just how large his feet are in comparison to his unseemly posture. This man can likely outrun his responsibilities if he wanted, and honestly I think he did, seeing as he mostly uses his lower limbs to create idols of Buddha all day. He hasn't lost his strength though, as seen by his well-shaped tibialis and calves, supporting not just an incredible arch but some whopping digital extensors, necessary to lift these enormous monuments he dares to call toes. Generally, dexterity requires finer, smaller muscles, as he has replaced his secondary arm with both legs to chase his hobby, but that's explained by the sheer amount of finished projects in here and throughout the game. Or was that the last guy? What any, it forgives the lack of hair below the ankle, which I assume has been sanded away for now. The prominent veins, even skin tone, and copious foliage is what denotes decent blood flow. Even his soles show no blemishes, beyond the dirt accumulated through his favorite human activity of walking on his leg. Backtracking to the toes, the spacing is to die for. You'd think the Empire's measuring units were based off of these ratios, from the forefoot to the heel to Fibonacci's magnum opus. You can even see Miyazaki personally modeled the array of struts and suspensions. I'll cut myself off and just put up a diagram. No idea how this guy hasn't let his chisel slip while flailing it around like a knife-wielding tentacle. As you can see, they is sharp. Can't question his technique if I can't replicate it though. Ironically, every single idol, without exception, is missing only its feet, instead replaced by what is likely necessary to keep the structure balanced and staying nicely. This ranking system is more subjective than usual, so it won't be appearing on the screen all the time, with detractions being key deciders instead. And the upper echelon will consist of examples that can't be compared rationally since they're all so varied, so they'll just sit there in no particular order. And so our first high-class contender tap dances his way into 5 out of 5 stars.
朋友，早上好。今天我送您5000万，千万要健康，千万要幸福，千万要平安，千万要快乐。
Lightning round! Wolves, dogs, and related things don't necessarily get a real ranking, but more of an assessment of accuracy and representation. Forelegs have 4 digits, the spur, and even the carpal pad. Hind legs have just 4 digits. Very nice, 5 out of 5 stars. Fish dogs get 0. Just past that and before Shrek are huge chickens. The last time birds this big existed, humans were the proverbial seed bucket they would feed from. 5 out of 5. What is likely some unfortunate Dutch East India salesman caught by the wrong fishing trawler shows us the upper end of sheer foot strength. Instead of refined movement, a rather sizable set of gastrocnemius cheeks give this thing the power to leap at you from all angles and on all footings, which in itself is very impressive. It shows both endurance and explosive power. While he's covered from head to toe in blisters, sores, coots, and bruises, it seems just the soles of his feet remain intact. This is likely due to being tortured for selling too many tulips. However, what cannot be forgiven is the poor nail hygiene. He can't have been in prison for too long, yet still exhibits a history of fecklessness on that front. Being Dutch, this guy probably wore clogs. Maybe his clog wearing is what led to such defined legs to begin with. Seeing him move around, he seems to not give a single fuck about using his primary artillery to concave Sekiro's head in. Also, it appears that his soles are so hardened through clog wearing that they are resistant to snow, leaves, and mud. No wonder his captors couldn't put so much as a blemish on them. Speaking of, yeah, he's been tortured and left to die. But that doesn't excuse exhibiting the early stages of frostbite. That sadly is a docked mark, so while the ogre has a lot going for him, including the one under Ashina Castle, the outward appearance is simply too lackluster to give anything above 4 out of 5 stars. Better luck next time. I'm just trying to fill out this page, but this century is getting a lightning round and a showcase as to why skin condition isn't everything. Yes, this soldier has never known coarse ground, but that's honestly a bad thing. Completely flat-footed, no width at all, 0 toe spacing, and just feeble. Clearly has not made use of what makes us humans to begin with, to the degree that it's hard to tell which side is the top of the foot. 2 out of 5 stars. At least he had some ability to support himself. All Headless found throughout the game have identical models, including the one found underwater at Fountainhead, especially since they all appear to be bloated corpses with sustained water damage, and still move like they're dreaming. As you can expect, this is not conducive to maintaining a dazzling complexion or, more importantly, healthy pedestals. At the very least, this lunatic has ridiculous ankle mobility, able to put some proper force behind his slow-ass attacks from any anchor point position at any angle, even pelting waywards toward the stern. Speaking of the rear, they like to fist Sekiro elbow deep and proceed to stuff whatever organ or debris that was into its own, swiftly yet firmly. Anyway, back to the foot review. It's difficult to make out anything resembling musculature due to the poor condition of the body, but it can be inferred from its movements that there is a lot of power being generated from down low, and while the toe spacing has been compromised slightly by water saturation, it's still pretty good. Nails somehow also look fine. The distension has made its way even to the arch, which is now either not visible or never there to begin with. If you look closely though, the patchy tufts of hair become diffuse and consistent across the lower leg. I looked it up and Japanese people are apparently no more or less likely to have toe hair than anyone else, so the lack thereof is in this case probably due to well, just look it up. If there were one deleterious condition I could apply here, I would diagnose this guy with dead, so that's really holding him back. 2 out of 5 stars, with the one saving grace being evidence of good health while alive. The quick aside this time is the Centipede giraffe. I'll include the larger one found later in the game here since the models are identical. Because this thing is covered in bullshit and constantly moving, blurring the model, it's hard to tell what's going on. Firstly, disgusting. It looks like it stinks. Second, what the fuck is up with the toenails? I mean, they look pretty good for whatever they are, but still. Third, the length to width ratio is off the fucking charts, which in this review is a bad thing. I cannot imagine the pain from having a strong arch, evident by the lack of dirt here, and having clown feet. That's a lot of tension put on the triangular base that'll make you never want to walk again, particularly since they're essentially wearing heavy gladiator attire. Actually, that could explain the whole walking on walls instead thing. 3 out of 5 stars. I'll make use of my giant toenail clipper and proceed.
Fucking horses, man.
Jesus.
Ashina has its own special forces clowns, and they live up to their shitty metaphor. Look at the size of these dogs. These toes are so fucking long and spaced, you'd think it was some kind of pond bird. For being out in the open so much, they're in perfect nick. Nails well preened, but again, no hair. At this point, maybe it's an in-universe cultural thing to pluck your toe hairs, which, by the way, really fucking hurts. The reason for their toes having such a high power level is likely because they're wearing the coolest stilettos I have ever seen. As someone who has both poor gross motor coordination and tested the SOPs of high heels, I have nothing but admiration for those who can exhibit such strength and endurance. Sober walking in these must overclock biological RAM. This guy is dead, so he gets no merit. Somehow they returned in Ashina Castle. Or should I say, feet, huh? Castle. Their agility is on full display on the rooftop, or hooftop, where their sacred art of plantar flexion truly fucks Sekiro up his newfound ass. Why they think hanging out on a kite is a good idea, who knows? But being able to stick the landing from that far up just goes to show that they mean business. Backflips, front flips, swan dives, whatever it is on whatever footing. They'll spring right back at you and not use their awesome kunai stilettos to their advantage. That would have been cool, I think. I'm including all types since the only visible alterations are the feathered cowls they wear, even the ones at the end when the castle is burning. As you can still see, the rooftop is no encumberment. In all, a good example of physical prowess. But I just can't see enough of the model and I don't want to make uneducated assumptions. For this, it gets a 4 out of 5. I really thought I would find something on the jar gremlin, hopefully possessing toes, but no, it's just a disembodied arm. Digressing now, the Hirata henchmen are first and foremost absolutely vile. I could actually smell these guys through the screen, and I'm not talking about their athlete's foot. See how red their skin is? It's safe to say they're getting plenty of blood flow on what can only be the most humid summer night imaginable. Say what you want though, they are covered in hair, even if it's sickening, so their feet could very well have the same coverage. It's very hard to tell though since it's just caked in everything they've encountered since birth. Not even the downpour and heat can chisel that shit off. Well okay, some of them are more crusted than others, but they all possess the same character model below the neck, just textured slightly differently. Because of that, I'll be averaging their scores among all subtypes of the Herat Albania mob squad. Again, it's hard to tell since their models get obfuscated before I can get close enough, but I am inclined to believe their toes are not fused together, they just rest rather closely. The musculature and skeletal structure, as far as humans go, is also decent. Not as good as mine, sadly, but still indicative of an active lifestyle. You can even occasionally see veins. Nails, arch, and supporting lower leg muscles, while hard to see properly, are all seemingly in good shape. This is an outlier, but even the upper leg is visible, looking like they all train a decent amount to keep their jobs as mercenaries. This all applies to the torch guys, sword guys, axe guys, and shield guys. Even the feckless bowman is part of the cloning operation, but dragging down the average with his abysmal hygiene practices of submerging his feet in, what, dead bodies? 3 out of 5 stars. Take a fucking bath, I beg you. I know they're called taros, but I call them trolls. Taro, tarol, troll. Anyway, they are all the same framework, but they have very different textures every time we encounter each subtype. So for now, this guy gets a 3 out of 5 stars. Strength is a given, but fuck me. This guy might have a connective tissue disorder. How he looks even more dead than Headless, yet is clearly alive and hairy, who knows? He would have been a 4 had his skin possessed any sign of life. Looking underneath, the forefoot might be just a little bit too wide, especially with good toe spacing. He even has an excellent Fibonacci going on. He's just too sturdy for his own good. I think we'll have to put him and his unidentified fucking rash to sleep. Now this is impeccable dimensionality, but that's not for right now since he needs to brush up on his Shakashuri skills. Instead, let's take a look at Juzo and his 2 other variants since they again possess the same exact character model. Only the third one is wearing blue and decides to quit the grind of alcoholism upon seeing you. They all still have jaundice though. It's obvious this guy is going to look revolting, but let's admire his posture for a moment. He is holding an enormous orc sword in place above his head, constantly, and on guard with his left. He isn't quite hunched over, but his core is clearly constantly engaged, acting as both support for his boulder-like approach to strangers and holding his boulder-like necrotic cirrhosis in place, because if he releases his abs at all, his hernias will turn him into a netted stress ball and he will pop from above as below and from all orifices. Going further, his legs are constantly abducted, meaning his adductors must be capable of severing torsos, and paired with his quads constantly in check, his knees are on a one-way ticket to Dust City. For now though, it means he has one hell of a foundation going on, and boy does he. With so much strength comes stiffness, but would you just look at that dorsiflexion angle? His toes are, yes, revolting, but incredibly thick and fixed with years of training into a... Yeah, his spacing is pretty horrible. Man, if it weren't for that, he would have been a 5 off the bat. But he has a lot more to answer for than just this. Inferring from his chronic alcoholism, his hepatic distension, and his crusty-ass skin, I diagnosed Juzo with hepatogenous type 2 diabetes, and thus diabetic dermopathy. It wouldn't be out of the question to say he's got peripheral arterial disease. Over half of cirrhotic patients enter the spectrum of insulin resistance, meaning blood glucose, which the damaged liver fails to store, barely enters cells. High blood sugar is acidic, made worse by the body releasing even more acidic ketones for cell energy, made worse by a chronic and severe inflammation of a failing liver, made worse by dragging his vulnerable body through battles and filth, creates vascular damage to the extremities. In this case, we can clearly see the end result. What good is a foot that is about to be cut off very soon? 1 out of 5 stars. What a fumble.
What am I doing wrong?
I was really hoping that the great serpent would be a non-venomous snake, and while Japan does in fact have many of those, none of them are any sort of boa or python. This is important because these two definitions of snake possess spurs, which are vestigial legs, and by extension, miniaturized feet. The great serpent is 100% a venomous snake, so there is no way of interpreting it as a boa or a python, and a hopeless cursory investigation shows no evidence supporting my hypothesis. Not applicable. Moving on. Our second troll phenotype is a slightly better representation of this group of hapless individuals, where there is at least some slight coloration beyond a horrendous ass rash and some hair on his head, so it looks at least semi-living. Still possessing the same characteristics of the previous foot, he has a good arch, good spacing, good musculature, but still devoid of hair below the ankle. Either way, it's only marginally better, so it gets like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Gyobu's horse is not applicable since horses have foregone the traditional tetrapod platform for an even more fucked up and terrifying construction. I don't want to ever look at a diagram for horse hoofs again. More interesting is the elusive Tangu upstairs. Fresh off of a mass murder, the length to width ratio is more on the long side, but it still works since the spacing is rather impressive. It's hard to form an understanding of the structure with these bandages, but what is obvious is that he doesn't need them, almost like it's intended to hide his true form. Even-toed ungulates get a pass from me. They haven't done whatever it is horses be doing. It gets pretty close, yes, but calling them hooves is misleading because they have toes. 4 in fact, with the front 2 being equivalent of our ring and middle finger and the rear 2 cloven hooves being the index and pinky. The 5th is nowhere to be found, but that doesn't matter. All 4 in tandem make for excellent splay and traction on unsure footing. And hey, the texture for the bottoms of the hoof look really good. Props to whoever took the time and care to make them look this detailed. There hasn't been a legit rating for a while, but fret no longer, my little based guitars. This old lady on the bridge shows us the very first example of a human woman in this game that doesn't hold back. Most obvious is this insane arch that exceeds the golden ratio. By a lot, like holy fuck. This can be easily chalked up to foot binding, but let me stop you right there. Japan, even in feudal times, was staunchly against foot binding, and even sought to abolish it in the countries they were colonizing. Yeah, I think I'd rather have my feet bound than be invaded by Showa-era Japan. Digressing now. What is up with the insane arch? Well, that's easily explained by the quote-unquote bones of the character model ignoring biology and just bunching up, like an arm inverting in Half-Life. I diagnose you with source texture. Also, you're filthy. 2 out of 5 stars. Slightly further on is a slightly more alive looking tarot. When a door is open, is it on or off? One way of seeing it is that an open door is plainly just a gap in a wall. No different to a hallway or an unremarkable cased opening without the embellishments. Therefore, it is off. Another way of seeing it is that when the door is closed, it has become deactivated by sealing the gap and engaging its mechanisms, albeit briefly, to compartmentalize a given space. The way I see it, a door is a transient object with more than just 2 states of being. It isn't a door if it never opens, and it isn't a door if it never closes. A door is only a door when given functionality and movement. Or this is all just semantics. 3.75 out of 5 stars. This is a weird case of dichotomy. All the variants of what I'm calling miners, seeing as it's a mine, have 2 different models. This living one has evenly separated toes, whereas these corpses nearby have fused toes. And weirdly, these ones are the same models used later in Mibu Village. Judging the poor conditions they're always found in, it was a losing battle to find one with decent presentation. That being said, this one, called Test Subject, has been torn apart in pursuit of the benefits of immortality. Whether they heal properly or not is hard to tell, but I'm assuming it works as it would if life support was given to all parts of the body. Thankfully, the feet have been spared, but not much has been done in regards to making full use of an athletic pursuit. However, it has an animation where it grabs you with its feet to feasted upon your noggins. This guy, only found in the mines, gets a 4 out of 5, and the others, being these corpses and residents of Evil Village, get a 2 out of 5. No, out of 10. Because what good is a foot without toes? Now we're at Footha Castle of it, really. Before tackling the building terminology I cannot justifiably pronounce, let's give these geckos a look. All variants, as per usual, are identical besides the coloration. Astounding toe spread aside, I do appreciate that their suction cup thingies were textured in too. 5 out of 5. What these Michael Bay shots don't tell you is that base form Genichiro has socks and sandals on to keep his power contained. One can only imagine the kind of care and dedication the heir of a failing empire has put into what makes him human. Deftness, explosiveness, sustained energy, it's beautiful. Making use of his strength to overpower a chud like Sekiro through stomps, kicks, jumps, the lot. If you, the viewer, existed at any point in life, you would understand the power of dragging your feet across carpet. I confirmed with Google that tatami mats can and do produce static electricity. What I'm getting at is that this is the source of his lightning blade. His solid core shows us just how much power he draws from his base, and just look at those calves. His overall structure is so far as perfect as it gets, covering the bases from his lower leg to the extensors to a perfect curve to... fuck. After all of that, he was so fucking close, man. At the risk of sounding like I hate syndactyli, which I don't, I believe Siamangs to be the absolute perfect creature to have ever existed, I simply cannot forgive this. Honestly, I'm blaming FromSoft for dropping the ball on what could have been perfection. Anything else that gets close is just missing the skin condition. And Genichiro's is excellent. Sorry guys, Genichiro fumbled. And yes, this includes perfect cell Genichiro. His toes are still melded. It's such a slap in the face that I'm inclined to not take just 1 point off out of 5, but all of them. 0 out of 5 stars. Be more like your grandfather, who has foot fingers remarkably similar to Mr. Tangu. Oh, Ishin, you're full of Billy Rubin, just like Juzo. If only we could get a proper look at you in your prime. What gives, potential man?
Like, what is his deal? A horse did that.
I brought up Siamangs for a good reason. They have achieved perfection, is why. Maybe it's their complexion that communicates pure contempt for other animals that have natural predators, which it doesn't. Maybe it's their gular sac, because why shouldn't animals have built-in bagpipes? Or maybe it's their feet. This is perfection. Why the fuck are only these toes fused? Why not is why. While not quite there, these macaques get somewhat close. I really appreciate that their toes flex at the right place, as much as I appreciate their feet looking how everyone's feet should look. I don't even think the ratings I've been using apply to them, and if they did, I'd be looking for the wrong things. And if I applied the logic I've been using for animals, it wouldn't feel right. This is the sigma of this video. Equal to the gold standard, but separate from it. What the fuck do I even talk about anymore? Deeper in the valley, we find a macaques capable of both standing firm on non-footing while shooting at you with guns, other ones with katanas, and this freak in a speedo peeking into an evolutionary path that should never be replicated. If you're wondering, I'm including the folding screen monkeys since they share the same models. All of this gets a thumbs up out of 5. Most impressive of all is Miyazaki's idea of what happens to monkeys when they stop aging. No. Case ever the what hot diggity dog does this bastard have it going on. It doesn't have the wherewithal to use his legs for combat, instead going for the shit projectile and Geneva violation. Very cool. It too has its toes flexing in the right place, and I'm yet again conflicted as to whether or not I should rank this one. After probably 2 seconds of deliberation, I decided that it is, by now, a far cry from what made monkeys so goated, such as the opposable thumb being brought further inward like it is with humans. Most notably, the nails, which likely prevent Guardian Ape from using its iPhone without nuclear levels of sass. Even more notable than that is its Phase 2 ability to walk on said legs. Horribly, yes, they lack the necessary pelvic alignment to make that possible. Sorry, Planet of the Apes, my beloved, but it's standing nonetheless. His wife, on the other has great mobility and normal nails, what they both possess. Finally, is an incredibly hairy pair of feet each. I give Guardian Ape a 4, and his wife gets a 4.5 out of 5.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What?
I'm falling head over heels already. This guy, well, I shall not rank this guy, as he is not only covered head to toe in paint, but he has no leg to stand on to begin with. The guy is an environmental asset, provable by the camera being able to move through textures without them obfuscating themselves. Really had me going there, pulling my leg. I mean, it's one step at a time, at least I toe now that he's not heel. I need to step up my game. Steppers in my game? Nailed it. I should tread lightly though. This cave harbors some malevolent entities that dig their heels into the walls of this cave. Wall divers have the most insane physiology I've seen thus far. Their arch has impacted and fused the heel with the forefoot, and with foot binding out of the picture, it's a real mystery how Japanese spelunkers created Doc Martens out of their own biology. Nah, it's yet again a byproduct of the tapping in on themselves. Nah, it's yet again a byproduct of the textures wrapping in on themselves. Ignoring the fluid nature of what should be a stiff body part, the toe spacing is good. Skin condition is, well, I really don't know, and considering they can generate hefty attacks purely through the power of their knee-deep disposition, I'd wager they're good for the strength category. 4 out of 5. Just take a fucking shower already. I forgot to record this guy. He gets 4 days. Does anyone else here about stalling? I, Swalo, have discovered probably the craziest mystery the gaming industry has produced. In a room full of jars, there is one man and one jar. This one jar is floating. Holy frick. Order, people, order, please. The reasoning behind this is that it was originally supposed to be an NPC you interact with, namely this one, whose name I forget. That NPC was supposed to have its feet sticking out the bottom of the jar in a show of dominance before it was surreptitiously removed for being too powerful of a statement. It perfectly explains why it's raised up slightly, only it's missing the foot aspect now. This is what it would have looked like had Miyazaki not been suppressed by the Shadow World government. Why is this a segment? He's wearing sandals. Some of the Senpo monks are brave enough to fight with just sandals, instead of the pinnacle of German psychological warfare tactics of adding socks to the mix. They're so insanely nimble for what are essentially rotting corpses, much like the ones seen strewn across the precipice. Honestly not faring better. The models themselves though are weirdly basic and low on detail compared to their elaborate movesets. Now that we're in the shade, we can see a pretty intricate forking of the digital extensors, some hallux flexor details, and a lovely arch. This guy's calf, for whatever reason, is... oh, that's just his pants. Yeah, okay. Between the feats of swag they've displayed and the care put into the condition of their most prized appendages, I respect it. I dig it. But I don't want to give them 5 stars since they're playing it too safe. What I'm looking for is ambition in the face of criticism. Like this guy covered in centipedes and their progeny. Why traverse the room with 2 feet when I could use 200? I'll use worms. This is ambition. But he's gone way too far and no longer has the use of what should be his pride and joy. 2 stars. Gross fucker. I'll give them one thing. They were holding their cards close, but not close enough for me to nick their hydraulic toenail clipper. Now I can finally bring Guardian Ape to a 4.5. Old guy would be a 4, but he had to go and get a fungal infection. 3. Mist Noble represents the direction in which humanity is going. We are cursed with these grotesque platforms, yes, but that is no reason to reject the nature of your being. They are in some fucked up way perfect at what they do. Instead of making the most of these dire circumstances, Mist Noble has just gone and made his feet completely useless, and even more misshapen. But in doing that, it has come full circle and gained the shape of the perfect form that most primates possess. Coming even more full circle, probably like 540 degrees now, is that it has gone from being a bastardization of the hand to a bastardization of both. And if you really want to bring it to midnight, to 720 degrees, it doesn't even use them. It just drags its coochie along the ground. Truly unforgivable. Minus 1 million out of 5 stars. The many inhabitants of these primitive lands travel, unlike Ashina's Genichiros, using the simplest and most natural conveyance. Since their beginning, Dudekind has used this vehicle to accomplish great and mundane things alike, from completing their pathing routines to fucking dying of dysentery under a waterfall. Oh yeah, these guys got reviewed already. 2 out of 5. Our hairiest soldier carries the strongest warts. Seriously, what the fuck did this guy step in? Or sit down in? I would have chalked it up to a sit-down shower were it not for the presence of verrucas covering the surface of his skin like it's a competition. Still, he displays excellent dorsiflexion and strength, especially his bell end colleague, and their fuck-ass hairy legs may lend some credence to this being a 3.
Is there like a boost for when you do it?
Shooting on the racers before these qualified. Whatever the fuck this is, it's fine.
Bay Formers establishing shot forms the majestic visuals of the former seat of power in place, Japan, commandeered by the informed formalgamation nation name Owl name Fukuro, no hardship, Black Wind, a wind interpretation of the character's characters, a rationale of his characteristics, autistic, like his son, he sets in prostration, prepare to be in prostration. We all ride the bicyclical of life cycle, encircle the sphere ball, the orb that orbits what doesn't rise or set, just absorbs the warm fruity nectar. Nay, quadratic hector of the fabric of space blanket. Something sinister is afoot, ball of foot. Ball of heel, ball of joint, each absorbing the base. Balls. This sun, set in a land, place Japan, is about to land himself at 4th base, a swing and a miss. Interpret as a sun set, the mousetrap, caught slacking. Let me cut you some slack. That's the wrong kind of cheese. To set, son, a feat of Darwin's accord. Fine, I'll hand you to win before you're locked in a ward. Show me what your strength is. And rest and rip. All you can rip is not cheese, but ass. Mother Earth toes. Mother Girth, you kiss your mother with that southern entrance. Kiss my ring of our sin. Hit the nail on the head, tread on the tatami matter. The framework of this woe down. Ha! March toward your own sun, set in your old ways. Old man, old fortune. Black wind wound you up, you wretched sons of a bitch. Itch. Scratch that. I laugh at your nalization. Sensatiation? Alization? No. Ratio. Oh, that's strong. Thine cheese. It's the bee's knees. If its kneeses was like their own, chalky, like your knees cheese. What are you, the diocese? I'll seize your die, yo. Get with the times. Amen became gay men while thou weren't looking. Only ism here isn't Catholis or aught, but bud. Buddy, wrap your silly. Try not to conflate fellatiation with fillet-iation of your man cheese. Smegatron, the only deception con is the septic bomb I've cut open. Thank you. And your goods are non-imperishable. Looks like you aren't a can, but a can't. We'll gave we that. Your vascuvanity comes full circle sphere. I fear you're going in circles. Repetition. It's no circumferentition. The only balls here is swiping your ankles. Maybe you should reel them back in. Barking up the wrong C. Circular. You're put in it. Orbit. The door butt. Dichotomous. Hippopotam mouse. Trap. Your wait! Don't! I need to hit my verb. Nebulous. Like ass vapor. Boof steamed. Smoke up your ass. I'm gonna shit your pants. Good shittins. Next time you ball, try slant thunking up a different tree pointer. Maybe you were barking up the wrong train. The next one will be no ass arc. With butt stuff. Butt stuff. Before I can think of anything funny, I get picked up by the most intelligent and well thought out method of generalizing. I really have no idea where the foot starts and ends, but I'm going to assume the point of delineation is where the rope begins to fray more heavily. That works like 2% better, but at least it's something. It has no ankles, no knees, or joints to speak of. It's hard to tell, especially in this less than permeable atmosphere. And let's see. Spacing is about as bad as it gets, since the tightly wound fibers is where it gets its strength from. No skeleton to be seen. Hopefully, that is. I'm not sure a ratio even applies. No skin. Is it all made of hair? No way, it's clean though. In all likelihood is housing all sorts of thriving life. Definitely smells. 5 out of 5. These freaky warriors, accompanied by ass-soul-sucking pissed nobles, exhibit what is probably the dandiest show of motility, bouncing and sproinging and frolicking, really, leaving everything else in the dust by comparison, especially when Sekiro gets hole-sucked. Excuse me while I shit myself. Barely there. When not toggling no clip, they make use of spears, bows, and static electricity with the same sort of action we've been seeing, especially the ball kickers, who seem to walk on air before putting a heat-seeking spin on the Cranium Destroyer 9 million. Fortunately, you can reverse static technique the lightning guys by breaking the laws of physics. That's all pretty cool, yes, but they all have these weird fucking fish tentacle thingies. Barbels. Okay, it ruins the continuity and flow of their structure and taints their feats of prowess in hindsight. Though not as much of a slap as the Mist Nobles, still very sad. 4 out of 5. Oh wait, they're blue, aren't they? 3 out of 5. Ugh. Now this is pod racing. A single glance is all you need to realize that this guy means fucking business. Ignore the fact that he is a ghost, and pretend he's been standing in freezing glacial runoff for hundreds of years. That'll get the flood blowing alright, if you're made for it. Perfect view of the musculoskeletal setup, complete with excellent calf to ankle diameter, huge extensors and flexors all around, terrifying arch fit for the most Roman of churches, superb spacing even with knuckles so large, and yeah, there's no hair like usual, but that sail might be shipped by now. How he trims toenails so thick without the hydraulic nail clipper? I wager he puts peanut ectoplasm on his toes and gets the souls of the damned to go grazing. I wouldn't be seen putting this anywhere except a straight 5 stars. Like with the merchant guy, this doesn't count, but I'll give it a perfunctory overview since it's a unique model. First off, she is dead, so we can discount any sort of health forever and ever. There is no evidence supporting any sort of productive movement. Even old people have ripped legs if they used them their whole lives. Way too flat, and way too long, but the spacing is fine. I'll put it slightly below passable. 2 out of 5 stars. Wait, no, it doesn't. You would think this isn't applicable since they do not have feet, but you are solely mistaken. No clipping just under the fog shows us that their bodies extend downward into some wooden lumps that exude tendrils along the way. Roots, if you will. And as we already know, toes are the root system that ground us to the earth. Fuck is this shit? Plot twist. Sekiro has had feet this entire time. Only they've been twisted and meshed and placed under the map. I know this because they follow him everywhere all the time. Maybe I should have no-clipped to check under his character model from the beginning. Both get a 0 out of 5 stars. Proving my thesis is the reintegration of a previous one. By that, meaning me, the static electricity magic. By rubbing your feet, i.e. these roots springing up, into the carpet, i.e. these soft clouds, you can discharge your unlimited power into the nearest family member. I had a really tough time finding where exactly this thing's feet were because it sure as shit isn't whatever this ball of whatever this is. Reach into your cliche box and zoom in and hands. These are, without a doubt, hands. They are pitiful in comparison to the dominant limb and possess 5 distinct digits. Let's refer back to the wolves and dogs from way at the beginning. Remember how I said dogs had 5 front digits and 4 rear ones? Well, booty is in the ass of the behinder, because sure enough, the huge dominant limb has 4 digits. No, the geckos don't count as a proxy because this thing is more dog than gecko, and you know it. Oh, but feet can't hold swords. How about you hold the phone? Yeah, I thought so. The other foot is gone, presumably to create an air of mystery and to make this boss look a lot cooler. The remaining foot is exactly what I was looking for. It has become so dexterous, it essentially recreated the functions of the hand, and its only use has become to wield those self-defense batons you see on Instagram. This is the ambition I am looking for. 149,000 out of 5 stars.
There's no escape now. Sitting around. Some men need to be killed. I was just joking.
Ishin fucking died of cringe. Couldn't you have waited until the end of the video at least? In his stead, this weirdo gets a 3 out of 5 for being boring.
I stood outside with my peener out, like usual. That's when I hear the bells approaching of the peener sniffer guy.
Seems like the sculptor had it up to here with my absence. I wonder what he's— oh my lord! Looks like a bad case of the Mondays. You want hair? You have hair. Lots of it, and it's on fire. Sadly, no toe hair, again, but that's hardly an issue anymore, is it? I don't even know if this thing has blood. Let's go from the top. Toe spacing is off the fucking charts, due in part to the sheer enormity of its feet. While I would appreciate some more separation between the index and big toe, it's quite pleasing to look at aesthetically. The arch, almost as if the sculptor were responsible for chiseling the marble he were born from, giving us the perfect Fibonacci sequence, stipulated by some seriously impressive struts and supports. It looks really fucking weird, but the length and width ratio still rings true, I think anyway, maybe a bit wide. As far as size goes, there is no equal. other than the chained ogre ages ago, but being, according to Goggle, 12 metric tons, you're going to want to have calves that look this fucked up to even move. I'm going to go out on a limb and say these 4 things coming out of the Achilles tendon is an adaptation for keeping it from becoming a bullwhip upon standing up. It explains this rugby ball shaped forefoot that I don't even know why it's shaped like that. Texture warping, IDK. If you go by my previous logic, the appendage with less digits should be a foot. But I'll ask you to go eat some soap and come back later. Not that Demon of Hatred will ever need soap again, since there's nothing quite as cleansing as self-immolation. The detractions honestly do not apply here, and never could. Okay, maybe the nasty fucking nails are an exception, but not only is it really cool now, but it's a fucking monstrous transformation. It is a chronic condition itself. Paperwork looks good, but does it work in real? Yes. To an extent that would see itself torn apart normally, but this is a game. It has the leisure to equip a sumo stance, sending its heels down like comets into my skull with no ill effect, capable of launching itself kilometers into the air to make its own crater. Gah! Ki! Work them legs, wolf. Maybe one day you'll have a posterior chain like this. 1 Brazilian out of 5 stars. You know, I ate prunes before recording this in the hopes of farting for the duration of it, but it didn't work, so this is just karma coming back to bite me. Genichiro still fucking sucks. Wanna know who doesn't? His grandfather erupting from his bisected torso. I thought he died. Alright, let's dial it back to old Ishin. The texture is very impressive, first off, from a graphic standpoint. Good work. It gives us insane detail on each of his little extensors, the tibialis sticking out to maintain his posture, the soleus presenting itself between that and the gastrocnemius. It's very cool. His nails are in good nick for someone so decrepit and dusty, other than the fact that they're purple. I don't need to consult a search engine to tell you that's a sign of poor oxygenation, if the scaly skin didn't tell you as much. This man is deep into an alcoholic dependency, and while he doesn't appear to have a distended gut, his liver is visibly failing him. Made worse by Sekiro force-feeding him monkey piss. Pair this with the fact that old age brings about insulin resistance already, the man is on track to lose his legs and his remaining eye. Good thing he just perishes at some point, but at this angle we are brought to his undercarriage. In that regard, his wheels, as in his toes, have perfect spacing, and his forefoot looks well developed. If you ask me, it's just a little too long, but some people are just like that. He seems like a long-footed kind of guy. Some of you who are autistic enough likely guessed correctly that I am a wide-footed kind of guy. The blemishes are probably just rigor mortis setting in. And the arch? Impressive. Very nice. Now let's see primate sheen. Beheld, everything that sucked is now cool again. The guy is now pink. That's a good tone, as well as the tone he has worked hard to maintain of his midfoot. It's like the side of a large cetacean. He's still long-footed, but just look at that spread. He's approaching the ground as if it were a tree, taking in every geometric alteration. His nails are still fucking purple, but I'll chalk that up to him being essentially a newborn, which can and do have purple nails. All the better with which to assault me and use my head as a prop in his upcoming soap cutting video. He leaps, he bounds, he stuffed my face into the fucking ground. But is he all that? You know what, my personal picks would be Demon of Hatred or the Sculptor, ironically, but Ishin, the legend, or in this case, leg end, has in my opinion the quintessential pair. The most normal, and so, the most human looking feet. 5 out of 5 stars. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. No, really, I make stupid videos for myself, always have, but it's nice knowing there are others down here with me. A breathtaking chunkus for my patrons as of the making of this video. As Beppis, Serial Mimic, Chud Farmer, Destiny Hunter, Demiurge, Fur Lord, IDR Phoenix, Farty Boob, Peggy, and The Cure for Life 1. You guys contributed to like 1 million burgers this month. Very cool. In exchange for getting scammed, a human gets to add whatever it'd like to the next video. Memes, music, ramblings, within reason of course. I don't know what I'll do for the next video though, either Dark Souls 1 or 3. I'll do a vote for that and a vote for which enemy to make everything. Or I could do something with the debug menu like 10 times speed or some shit. Anyway.